All right. Well, I will go ahead and share my screen. We've got a deck to walk through today. Um, for those who haven't joined office hours before, my name's Emma Hamilton. I am a customer success manager here at Ambition. And today I am joined by the amazing Kelly Berg, who is our VP of customers. Kelly, if you want to introduce yourself real quick, a little bit more
Yeah,
about you.
great. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to get to co present with Emma for office hours. I'm the VP of customers at Ambition, and I joined the team last summer. So I am officially in the swing of things and excited to talk about kicking off 2021 and some best practices for sort of refreshing Ambition for you and your team as we launch the year.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen. Again, welcome to Office Hours. A reminder, Office Hours, we are here to share ambition best practices, industry trends, answer any of your questions. So throw questions in the Q&A or the chat. I'll be keeping my eye on that. You've got our VP of customers here at your disposal, so ask away. Office Hours is open to anyone who wants to learn more about ambition, coaching, gamification. So invite your coworkers, invite maybe you have like a superstar rep on your team that you want them to take a little bit more initiative. This is a great avenue for them to learn more about ambition. We are transitioning to doing office hours just once a month, the third Thursday of every month. And we've got some more information coming about the upcoming session. So I'll touch on that at the end. But third Thursday of each month. And oh, click here to register. I don't have the registration link yet, but that's to come. You guys will all get an email. And again, yes, today's presenters, I've got Kelly and myself. Um, ask us any questions, and then we're going to get into our fun topic for today that Kelly's going to present on.
Awesome. So when Emma and I were coming up with, what topics do we want to touch on in office hours? I think a big one for a lot of us is kicking off the year. So we had our sales kickoff and our CS kickoff last week, and I imagine, most companies are having those in January and February. So you might be in that position as well. Or you might just be thinking about, okay, like what do I need to update in Ambition to make sure that everything looks good for the year? So that's what we're talking about today is kicking off 2021 and making sure, things are up to date and basically the areas in the product to go in and check and make sure are refreshed. So we'll talk about updating goals, and Emma is going to be walking through the product so you can get a chance to see the different areas and what steps to take. We'll talk about accolades and creating some new accolades for 21. We'll talk about triggers, coaching, and competition. So everything you need to be thinking about in Q1 and as we start the year. Awesome. So we'll start by talking about goals and goals within Ambition. So I'll walk through this and then Emma can actually dive into the product a little bit. So one of the things I did as a leader is start thinking about, okay, what do I need to update in Ambition to reflect my team's 2021 KPIs? So whether it's just a refresh of, those key metrics you need to hit, the revenue numbers, whatever that is double checking that things are looking good and setting up team goals and individual goals. We used our kickoff to roll out these new numbers and have everything updated in our own instance of Ambition. And this is also the moment to reflect your scorecard. So if you are launching any new systems, have any new metrics or KPIs you're focused on for the year, this is sort of the moment to just take a look and say, does that scorecard still look right? Are all of the activities that are ramping into my scorecard, my objective scores, everything looking accurate for this year? Do you need to change or adjust anything given your plans, given the current market, whatever it is that you're looking at for the year as you're setting those goals? It's a great time to come in, refresh Ambition, and then roll that out to your team. So I think it's a good time for change management as people are starting the year. So Emma, if you want to jump into the product, we can show
Absolutely.
people what we're talking about.
Oh no, I'm just flying through it. Let's just exit.
A
So I've
good
got our
preview of
demo.
what's to come.
I've got our demo pulled up. And we're going to go over to our demo girl, Erin's profile. One thing that I really love about the goals tab in Ambition from the user's perspective is because from here, your users can see their personal goal and their team goal. I know going into 2021, I've got my own personal numbers that I'm expected to hit, but we also have a cumulative team goal. And it's really not feasible for me to keep up with all of my peers' contributions to my team goal. But here, you can track it really easily for your reps so that they can go in and say, okay, we've got this many days left till the end of this goal. This is what the target is. This is where we're at. Who has contributed to this goal? I think this is really powerful. If you've got some people that are really pulling the weight and then maybe down at the bottom, not so much. This might, Elizabeth down here, she might feel a little self conscious and want to maybe step up her game a little bit so that she can help her team reach their goal. Um, but it really is like your one-stop shop for all of the like tracking towards their targets, which I really love. And then of course, like Kelly said, updating that scorecard, um, just making sure it's relevant, I think is super important, because the moment that that scorecard isn't relevant to your reps or to what really matters to them, they kind of become disengaged. So if you're preaching one thing at your sales kickoff, that this is our, our priority in 2021, this is what we want to do, and then the stuff that you have them doing doesn't reflect that, it can cause confusion. So this is a great time to make sure that everything's aligned towards like your main vision for the year.
Awesome. Yeah, and one thing I think can be powerful too is when you're thinking about those goals, like the concept of short and long term. So it's like we have Q1 goals that we need to hit, but we also have those like big meaty 2021 goals for the whole team. And so that's an opportunity to create some longer term goals that can be consistent throughout the whole year, as well as things that are, attainable within these first 3 months. Awesome. Well, when we also think about goal attainment, we think about accolades, and accolades it's probably my favorite part of ambition, I have to say. It's a newer piece, so you may not be totally familiar with it yet. But accolades are basically the digital trophy shelf where you think about like sales or CS teams in the past and having president's clubs or different awards that people could work to achieve, whether it's through their entire career at your company or whether it's something that's shorter term. So, when you're thinking about the goal achievement, you can create accolades to match those. So, if you're creating that 2021 revenue goal, or if I'm saying, hey, Emma, here's all of your renewals for the year and your target, I can create a goal or an accolade to match that to say, well, when Emma hits that number, she gets this badge that she can display within Ambition. She could also share it on LinkedIn, or I share it in our team meetings. Emma won our referrals competition in Q4, so she got the referrals royalty accolade. So I think as a leader, it's a real opportunity to get creative, have some fun, add some new categories. If you are like us and you're still working from home, it's a nice way to think about peer-to-peer recognition or rewards, new hire onboarding. So like I was a new hire in the middle of the pandemic from my home office, and we have new hire training and programs, and when someone completes that, you could give them a new hire onboarding accolade for actually making it through your program. Or Emma could give a peer-to-peer accolade to one of our fellow CSMs who helped her out with something. So there's a moment as we start this year to think about, well, what are those culture building moments? Like, what are the opportunities you have to actually reward goal attainment? And how can you create some stretch goals that can be worked toward over the entire calendar year? So maybe you have like that $1 million club or something that is like a really big, exciting achievement that people could strive for throughout the whole year. So the accolades piece of the product is super quick and easy to update to, which is also a nice thing. And you can really personalize it toward your team and what you have going on in the current moment.
Yep, I will really quickly show you guys kind of what accolades look like in action. And then I'm going to show you some stuff in the builder too, which I think is really interesting to point out. So just like goals, accolades have their own little tab on a user's profile, but also you'll see Erin's got accolades pinned to her profile, which is so cool. She can kind of pick out what are the things she's most proud of and pin it so that anytime a leader or a peer goes to visit her ambition profile and maybe snoop a little bit, they can immediately see what she's most proud of when she earned these achievements. But there's more to it. So if you pop into accolades, we've got like this shout out award. So someone shouted Erin out. This is that peer to peer recognition. I love like a virtual high five. Anything to kind of facilitate that camaraderie that people are missing with not being in office, I think is really great. Another really cool idea that I've seen people implement is if you typically give out like cool incentives that people are used to showing off around the office. So I've got a customer that does like custom shoes. If every year, if you hit this certain threshold, you get these really cool custom shoes, and everyone knows you're strutting those around the office. You won that. You did a great job. You earned that. But really, you're missing that now that you're not in the office. So you can create like your custom shoes accolade. And if you win it, throw it up on your pinned accolade so that it is kind of your opportunity to strut it around, which I think is fun. Um, Over on the left hand nav is where you're going to build accolades and manage them. So if we click in, I just wanted to show a little bit about what happens when you build an accolade. When we go to how do employees earn this accolade, so what are the requirements, you've got three options. So the first is just plain old metric achievement. You can choose what time frame. So people can earn this once a month, once a week. Maybe they can only earn this award once a year, or maybe it's a one-time award that your reps can earn. So you decide that here. You can even put the incentive here. So if there is something extra they get by earning this accolade, you can totally put it there. So it's completely transparent on what they're working towards. And then also you add the metrics. So the cool thing about accolades is you can do multiple metrics. So you can say you have to hit, this is very silly numbers, but 100 activities, 500 calls, and 1,000 emails. If you hit all three of those within a year, you get this accolade. So you can have, all these different components that make up people achieving this. You can also do multi-level progression. So we've got here level one. Level one might be all three of these things, but then level two, we got to step it up: 500 activities, 1,000 calls, 2,000 emails. And so you have multiple levels so that you can see within the same accolade what levels are people achieving, how are they moving through the levels, which is another fun spin on it. And then finally, the employee discretion. So that peer to peer or manager to peer option. So you can see here, you can just do manager to employee. I think this is a really good option for a team MVP. You can set out to award this weekly. Maybe you make it, a rule of thumb every Friday. You hand out a team MVP accolade and people can kind of rack those up. We'll keep track of how many times. So at the end of the year, Erin's like, oh, I won team MVP 5 times this year. That's a great achievement for her to hold on to. But then also anybody to anybody. So this is that peer-to-peer virtual high five piece. And when you go to give this peer-to-peer or the manager to employee accolade, you can put the why. So I'm giving out a virtual high five. Why? Because Mindy helped me prepare for my business review that I was stressed out about. So you can put some more detail in there so they can know why they got it. But yeah, accolades are cool. I echo what Kelly said, that this is such an amazing part of our tool. And I think because it's newer, people are still catching on, but it's a lot of fun. People love to show off their achievements. They want to brag. So this is a way to do it and to automate it, so it's not work for you guys.
And Emma, go back to
Yeah.
the what is the accolade called? The first step on the
Yes.
builder. So there's a little image library there. So with some fun imagery that could kind of represent, but you can also upload your own images. So within Ambition, we have some like pretty fun ones that people get super custom or do something fun, or you could have I could have the Emma Hamilton Award and I could put Emma's face on it and then just award it to other people. So this is like a really fun opportunity to build culture, make things just, super fun and have some digital rewards that people could get and display.
For sure. I actually have one customer that every year they have this like really gaudy Santa trophy. And every December, the person who sets the most meetings in December gets to have the gaudy Santa on their desk for the upcoming calendar year. So it's like a big culture thing at their company. And when they moved remote, they're like, we're going to miss out on that because the gaudy Santa sitting at someone's home office, it just doesn't have the same effect. So we put a gaudy Santa in this image upload and they can pin it to their profile. So
Beautiful.
it's sitting on their virtual desk
There you
essentially.
go. No bobbleheads, but you've got your images there.
Yes.
That's great. Cool. So the next piece are triggers. So as you know, a leader, I rely so much on triggers. I look at them in our Slack channels. I get triggers sent to my email. So, I work from home. If I'm outside with my kids, I want to see every time we close that renewal or, whatever that trigger might be. So this is a good moment to make sure that you have the right triggers set up and that they're visible to the right people at the right times. So if you've had any movement on your teams, sometimes ICs are getting promoted into management. Maybe you want them to get triggers sent to their email or be more visible to them if you're using, your TV URL at home, or if you're back in office and you have your TVs, just making sure that all of those right activities are what you have set up for triggers. If you are a Slack user, using Slack for triggers for company channels is a really fun way to have real-time recognition in the remote environment. I loved seeing everyone update their gifts and their anthems at the start of this year. It just makes me smile to see all of the new gifts rolling in when someone's closing a deal or when, they're hitting their activities, whatever that is. I feel like it gives everyone a lift in our Slack channel to actually see what everyone chose for the start of the year. So it's a good moment just to remind the team of like, hey, we want to celebrate you. Make sure all of that's updated for your 2021 vibe, and then make sure that those triggers are going to the right places and the right people.
Sweet. One thing I'll point out in the application about triggers really quickly, um, that's a newer functionality, is that you can dive into the logs of each trigger. So if you're going through and you're doing that kind of like um, that like check on everything, taking inventory of all your triggers and saying, okay, what do we want to keep? What do we want to delete? What triggers do we want to add? Who are these triggers going to? All those questions. You can actually dive into the logs of each trigger. So if I click into this, it's going to show the logs for this specific trigger. But then pro tip, if you exit out of this trigger specifically, it's going to show you the logs for every trigger that gets fired, which I just feel like is a really good starting point for taking that inventory. You can see which triggers are firing, because sometimes, especially running into a new year, we change how we track things in Salesforce. We change and we don't realize that maybe we adjust some logic that impacts a trigger firing. And
Mhm.
so if you look and you're like, oh, this hasn't gone off in a few days and it should have, this is a really good place to kind of recognize that. So I would recommend, as you're starting to kind of evaluate what you want your trigger program to look like in 2021, to check out the logs. You can use the filters to dial down a little bit more, check by medium. So if you're a Slack user, let's see which ones are going to Slack, which ones are going to our TV, email, all that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always like the start of the year of taking that inventory and being like, what do I not need in my life anymore? What do I
Yes.
need? Great. And then coaching. So, coaching is another bigger, newer piece of the Ambition platform. So, if you're using coaching already, again, this is just such a nice time to freshen up your coaching program where I set up my program when I first started at Ambition last summer, and I'm starting to think about, okay, are the questions I'm asking in that one-on-one, are those still the right questions, or have things changed now that I am more in the swing of things? I probably don't need to ask Emma the same questions about her book of business or, her activity or where she needs help with roadblocks. So I'm adjusting our one-on-ones to include questions that really ladder up to our team OKRs. So now that I have all of our metrics and goals and accolades set, I can tailor our one-on-one to really reflect that and reflect our, new company mission statement for the year and everything that we're setting out to go achieve. I can really make that consistent with the way I have one-on-ones and coach my team. I think another piece of this is setting up great habits for the year with action plans. So, if there's like a skill you're really trying to have your team build, or if there are specific people on your team where you know that there's something that they really need to focus on, you can use that action plan piece of the product to actually set up that roadmap to success and have those milestones ready to go of when you're going to check in with someone on this. Hey, I want you to watch this training video know, or I have new hires starting on X date in Q1. I want to be ready for them to watch different pieces of collateral or, come back to a one-on-one having completed a specific action. That piece of the tool can be really, really helpful and is powerful at the start of the year to kind of set everyone up for success. And then the last piece is soliciting feedback with the asks functionality. So I know toward the end of last year, I had my teams sending me asks about, like, well, how might our comp plan change next year? Or, hey, can we talk about this? This is something I want to see. And so using those asks to make sure the team is empowered with what they need for a great year, for me as a leader is really helpful because it logs everything, tracks it. I get notifications that these asks are coming through from my team, or an ask for coaching, or an ask to listen to a call. I find that it helps keep me really in tune with what the team needs and what they want. And if you're not using coaching and ambition yet, this might be a good moment too, where Emma's going to show you the product. But if it is something that's of interest to you, let us know and we can talk more about using that for your ongoing coaching and any kind of check-ins you're doing.
Totally. Two things I will point out about coaching are, so over here, left hand nav, if you're already using coaching and you're just looking to do like a 2021 refresh, you'll want to go into manage. And one thing I'll point out is you don't necessarily need to rebuild a brand new program. You can actually just go in and edit what you have live. Up to you. I mean, either route works, but just know if that's a fear, like, oh, I don't have time to go in and do this, you can just go in here, make sure that the like end date encompasses the rest of the year. But also you can go ahead and adjust the agenda of a live program, save it, move on. It'll implement moving forward. So just don't have that looming pressure of, oh, I have to have time to revisit all of this. You can go in and really quickly make this adjustment. And then if you are someone who doesn't use coaching yet, a really easy way to get acclimated to using coaching and ambition, is just to pop over to your user's profile, click into their coaching tab, and drop a note. Because even if you're not doing formalized coaching in ambition, I would assume you're at least checking in with your reps, having some sort of one on one discussions. Where do you keep those notes? In my experience, before I've used ambition coaching, it's on post-it notes and in emails and in Slack
Google Doc.
channels. Yes, all over the place. It's not consistent. It's not easy to find. Don't want to do that. So if we can get all of your like thoughts and discussions and recap notes from your one-on-one into ambition, this note function is actually searchable. So if you can just get into the habit of, if you don't want to dive into the full, like, oh, do a big program and make an agenda, if that's not your style, cool. You can go in and just drop a note, and then whatever, pertains to your coaching one-on-one, and then save it just so it's housed in one place. And then in the future, you can actually go over to the notes section and search the content. So you can go back and search key phrases or dates, and take you back to some specific like logs so that you can see what you guys talked about in the future. But that would be kind of my tip if you're not quite ready for full on coaching yet.
That's awesome. And yeah, something I've loved about coaching through ambition is being able to see all of those fresh metrics right there. So it really saves me a lot of time from having to jump into like Salesforce or other BI tools to look up how someone is doing. I can see all of that right within coaching. Okay, so jump into the next piece, launching new and fresh competitions. So I just happen to think that Q1 is like a great time for bringing back that competitive spirit. Like some people do sort of Spirit Week stuff surrounding their kickoffs, their SKOs, or they follow a kickoff with a call blitz. If everyone's off the phones for a day or two for your kickoff, you want to get that activity right back up. So it's just a really fun time with all of the sports events to theme things with with Super Bowl Sunday, March Madness. I know everything's different in the COVID world, but still, we you can try to theme those competitions, get them on the calendar early so the team knows like this competition is coming up in March, draw that interest and engagement. And with that, it's like if there are great rewards, like if you're going to add, a monetary incentive or some other type of fun reward, or even an accolade to a competition winner, publicizing that early, it gets people just like really hyped up for what's to come. I've also seen like our SDR leader at Ambition, we talk about trying to change up the schedule where if you have a call blitz like every Thursday morning, it's like, well, we did that through all of 2020. Like, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's do something different just so that the year feels different. It doesn't feel like a slog. And even adding some long term competitions. So at the end of last year, like I mentioned with Emma winning our referrals competition, I ran one that went for the span of like 3.5 months. We launched it at the end of Q3 and we knew that it would run through the end of the year. And that's a fun idea too, because then it was on our TV, our URL. It was something we continuously checked in on. And there are clients who do year long, competitions or spiffs for some of those big, like meaty goals. And it's just something that you can track every single month or quarter or year. So having that good variety of like the hour-long call blitz mixed in with some long-term competitions can be a good way to keep motivation there and make sure that there's always like something running from a competition perspective. And then, yeah, like thinking outside the box and just outside what your team historically has done or traditionally has done and trying to come up with some new ideas. The Ambition blog is a great place to find all types of competition ideas from like the nitty gritty of how do you structure something that's like a fantasy football style competition, or how do you do that quick hit, spur of the moment call blitz when just activity scores are really down. So we'll make sure that we have, those links as part of the follow up to this so that you can get some ideas for fun competitions for the year. And Emma, if you want to jump in, you can.
Yeah. So one thing I'll note, like I feel like one of my most frequently asked questions from my customers in relation to competitions is they're like, okay, I've got this cool competition idea, but we're gonna reorganize into like these little teams of three. We want people to work with these people that they don't typically work with. How do we do that? I get that question all the time. And so I just want to refresh and remind you guys, over in administration in groups, if you guys want to do any sort of creative segmentations for your competitions, you build that in groups just like any other new hierarchy build. One thing that Kelly touched on, like a football, fantasy football, I've actually seen people do like a NFL themed groups, and you could even do like a live draft. Get everyone on a Zoom and be like, hey, we're kicking off our Q1 big fantasy football competition and we're drafting teams right here and right now. Pull names out of a hat or go by people's like performance in 2020. You can pull up like the top performers and maybe they draft their teams, and you can do it live. You can have this open, and I don't think it's going to let me save this, but if you popped over into the group, you can say, all right, Alex, you're first up. Draft your first person. Okay, Alex, what's your team name gonna be? Maybe he wants to be the Tennessee Titans. He wants to actually be a football team, or maybe he wants to be Alex's Angels. I don't know. But you can do a live draft there, get that buy-in right there. I think it's a great way to kick off a competition idea. But I did just want to remind everyone that you can create these like fun, unique segmentations in the group builder. And then once you go in to build the competition, that will be available for you to select as participants. But yeah, I highly recommend doing that, because if people are used to working in like a very specific structure of, this SDR works with this AE, maybe we want to switch it up for some things. See what happens when you pair people up with different people that they typically wouldn't work with.
I love that idea for new hires too, like this time of year. Like I feel like my LinkedIn blows up from salespeople switching jobs or bringing on new hires and being able, to pair up a new hire with someone who's really seasoned to make that competition feel fun and, more fair for those new hires who might be like, wait, I'm not ready for like the full head to head with your top reps, but team people up and that can make it really fun.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Reminder that you can throw questions in the chat or the Q&A. We're keeping our eyes on that. And then also as a reminder, office hours is switching to the third Thursday of each month. We actually already have our lineup and agenda planned for all of 2021. So you guys will be receiving an email really soon about what all of the topics for the rest of the year are, along with registration links. So you can go ahead and register for the topics that interest you the most. But just some like teaser ideas. We're going to have our senior solutions architect, Ward Kennedy, join us for a session. I know that everyone always has a lot of technical questions and they're interested in the back end. This could be a really perfect time to encourage your sales ops or Salesforce admin person to join in office hours. But he's going to be leading a session. We're actually going to have our brand new VP of Product, Butler Rains, join and talk about the Ambition product roadmap. And you guys can bug him with some product requests, ask him some questions. It'll be a perfect time to let him know what you're wanting to see the most out of Ambition. And then another really cool topic that we have locked in for later in the year is our SDR manager, Chris O'Connor, is going to come and talk about how he coaches his SDR reps in Ambition and kind of like the real life tips and tricks and what he does that's worked the best. Which so it'll be pretty cool. We've got a great lineup, I think. So you guys will be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you again so much for joining, Kelly. Thank you so much for presenting on all this awesome information. If anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to Kelly, to your CSM, to Ambition Support. We are here to help answer any questions, and we want to see you guys be super successful this year. So thanks a lot, and we'll
Thank you,
talk to everyone
everyone.
soon. Bye.
Bye bye.